the whole like reason that George Martin even wrote Game of Thrones is he was a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings, and my lack of knowledge of Lord of the Rings is vast. So excuse me here, but
I can probably correct you a bit.
You probably can, and please do. But George Martin was a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, but the one thing that bugged him is like at the end of the trilogy or the books or whatever, however way you digest the story, he asked himself, what happened to, I think it was the orcs or something, like what happens to them after Sauron is gone? Like, what do they do? It never explores that idea. Like, there's so many groups of people that like whose lives would change by the events of the story, and you never see it.
Orcs aren't really people. They're just like...
But shouldn't they be? Like, how interesting is a villain?
So, okay,
they're
the
not
last
very
ring bearer,
the
last ring bearer, guys.
They're way too quick to like eat each other.
Go read the last ring bearer. It is an excellent take on this concept.
Right.
It is a little bit like, how could they possibly have a society when they're this dysfunctional around each other?
Exactly.
Because they have an evil flaming god looking down on them.
Yeah,
what's
like,
more interesting?
I don't think orcs are like their own species. They're corrupted elves, I think, was the idea. So they are like inherently evil and bad.
Right.
And like,
but that's not interesting though. Like, what is more interesting?
Tolkien was always like trying to reconcile that with like the idea of a loving sort of Christian like God. Who like, how can you have these people who are like just like inherently evil with something like that?
But that doesn't exist in real life. Like, there is no person that is just evil for the
hot
sake
takes,
of being
Corky. Evil. God doesn't exist.
I'm not going to go there. But I will tell you that there is no such thing as a person who is evil for the sake of being evil. It's not interesting. Like, would you rather like read or watch a story about an evil guy who actually has legitimate reasons for what they're doing, or somebody who's just evil just because the story needs an evil person? Look at Thanos.
I don't think a villain is inherently better than another villain just because they're sympathetic.
I definitely do. I think Thanos is more of a
fallacy of storytelling.
Look at the difference between Thor 2.
They don't.
If they are interesting in how much of a dick they are, like Frieza is a fucking great villain, and he's just evil. He's just an evil son of a bitch.
Okay,
he's fucking awesome to watch.
I think that a villain doesn't need to be sympathetic, but they need to believe in their own action.
They need to have a good motivation. So Thor 2 has a villain who's scary, but he's just this elf guy, and he's just being evil for the sake of it. Whereas Thanos, he's evil, he's mad, he's insane, but he has good reasons for why he's doing shit. And that's why he's so interesting in the latest Avengers movies. So
the best villains are the ones that, if their methods changed, they'd be the hero.
Right.
I disagree. A villain should be a villain. All the villain needs to do is to challenge the hero in a very specific way.
That's just an antagonist, though.
Yeah, well, a hero. You can have a villain for tires. But in my opinion,
think it's interesting. I want to.
Yeah, I agree. I want to be conflicted. You lose on those juicy parallels.
Daredevil's best antagonist is the Punisher because he's not a villain. He's just a hero that disagrees with him on a lot of things.
I think there's this obsession in Western media lately about like deconstructing tropes or like how you can't just enjoy things for what they are.
You can enjoy it by all means. I just enjoy a more complicated
everything
character
has to have like moral ambiguity.
It doesn't have to be ambiguous. Thanos is evil. There's not much ambiguity there. It's just like he's not just he has reasons for what he's doing. It's
okay to have those things, but it doesn't automatically make your story like smart.
I'm not saying it makes it smart, but I think it makes it better.
I wouldn't say that either.
I would much rather read a story or watch a story that has an actual character arc on the villain side.
Yeah, my two favorite villains are Funny Valentine and Nox the Clockmaker. And I think it's a pretty, their motives are all arguably more just and noble than the heroes. And it makes sense, and you almost you're like, I can understand why this person does that, as opposed to a villain that is like the Joker, where it's just like, why is he doing it? Because funny, man, clown hurt people. It's boring. It's boring when they have nothing to like sympathize with.
See, people, I don't know. People have this idea now that like villains are the ones that are supposed to be super compelling. Like, I want a compelling hero. I'm supposed to identify with the protagonist.
Yeah, why not both? This is a good answer.
A villain.
I want the hero to be interesting.
You said a villain should challenge the hero. They shouldn't just challenge them in a fight. They should challenge them morally.
That's what the fucking Joker does with Batman. Because Batman doesn't want to kill him.
Yeah, I don't think the Joker is an example of a bad, like, uninteresting villain. But
he
I definitely see what Joe's
Batman's beliefs in an interesting way. That doesn't mean he doesn't have to be sympathetic to do that.
I guess.
I think a better example would
welcome to the Narrative and Literary Analysis Podcast.
Oh my goodness.
This is our fucking book club.
This huge tangent that I went on.
Batman's ideals are challenged by any villain because he doesn't kill. Mr. Freeze is so much more interesting than the Joker because his motives are, like, actually existent.
What, he wants to save his wife or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay,
I hate the Joker.
So a villain has to have a loved one that they're saving, and they're automatically...
They should have something that they're fighting for!
You know, some people really are just evil pricks.
And they're boring! And they're boring for it.
But if they're an evil prick, you need to explain why
they're an evil prick, then yes.
They need to have a reason. Like, even if it's you had shitty parents, it's better than nothing.
Corky, that's my favorite comic book panel.
This is the greatest villain that ever was.
Wait, what is this?
It's my favorite comic book panel ever. I'm editing that in.
Oh, this is a good one. I remember like we shared this with respect to like Ruka or something like that like a while back.
My philosophy is that if you're not gonna get like serious with character arcs or getting analytical or getting all like, you know, meticulous with this shit, just run into absurdity. That's what this does. It's if you're not gonna like do it right, do it funny, do it entertaining, and that's what this does. That's why I love it. But anyway,
what the fuck did we get here?
I think there's like this
whoa.
This huge tangent.
Yeah. There's like this obsession with villains now.
I believe the next question is like
see a good hero.
I believe the editor. There's like an editor question next.
Let me wrap this up.
Epilogues.
Are we not done? Did we not cover the topic?
I went on a huge tangent and we got out of hand.